To my friends, you all know that I lost my grandmother in March 1st of this year. My grandmother was diagnosed with breast cancer twice in her life. My mother was diagnosed, and so was my mother's younger sister. So cancer is something that's really dear, I think, to me, because I've also had family members, as many of you probably also have too. I don't think that there's any family that has not been touched by cancer. But with that, I want to bring in my co-hosts, Earl, Patrick, Jay Smiles, Nick, Nayada, and then we've got Betty in the background. How you all doing?
Hey.
I'm good.
I hear everybody. I mean, I feel like
good.
I was watching along.
Do I have to start all over and say, hey, can everybody give me a good greeting?
Breast cancer, it's hard to be like, yeah, I'm getting it. Woo! You talked about your grandmother passing, your mom, your aunt. I mean, it's a sobering conversation, but yes.
It is. And I did it that way for a reason. Way for a reason, because oftentimes I remember when I was a kid and we would talk about breast cancer, it was kind of like a death sentence. And now we're in a different situation where we know more about the science. There's a big thing about screenings, but I still feel that there's still not a lot of attention is focused on screenings. And tonight, I hope we'll get a chance to talk a bit about also how COVID is interrupting this piece, because there are a lot of people that are not getting screened. But with that said, let's just jump right into our conversation. We've got with us Dr. Yvette Best, and we've got Dr. Christiana Shustari. And I would read you all's bios, but we want to keep this like very familiar. And I'd like for you all to kind of tell our audience a little bit about yourselves. I'll let you go first, Dr. Best. Could you tell us what part of the country you're in and a little bit about your story?
Okay. Welcome, everyone. I am currently in Orlando, Florida, and a little bit about my breast cancer journey. I was first diagnosed in June of 2018. And it's ironic that I'm the one that found the initial lump. Had the traditional MRI, questioned whether or not, the scans came back okay, indicated that I felt a lump. They sent me in for a breast MRI. And literally the day I was scheduled to get on a plane to fly overseas for my daughter's graduation trip, they called me and said, we need you to come in for a biopsy. And I was like, unless it happens between 4 p.m. today, it's not going to happen until I get back into the country. And went in for the biopsy, boarded my plane later that evening. And as I'm walking around the streets of Belgium, got the call. And the doctor said it did come back positive for cancer. And so I opted, for a double mastectomy in August of 2018 with reconstruction, which, didn't complete until December of 2018. And shortly after celebrating my 1-year anniversary of essentially what I thought was being cancer-free, I found another lump. And so the second diagnosis came in November of 2019. And this time I opted for, radiation and did, 30 rounds, 5 days a week of radiation. And right now I'm going through the process of, monthly injections for the hormone treatments, taking the oral chemo pill daily. And it's been a journey. It's been an emotional roller coaster, both physically, emotionally, spiritually, and, just happy to be here. It's really reshaped my perspective on just kind of the whole cancer journey and cancer process.
I want to bring our state school gladiator in because you and Patrick know each other very well. And when we started talking about this last month, Nayada was like, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We've got to do a show on breast cancer awareness. And unfortunately, I was the one who made the decision to say, let's not do it now. Let's do it next month. And it was because I didn't want to see it get pushed aside because there was so much focus on the election. But right now, we're seeing this transition piece going into it, President-elect Biden. And we also see that there was a court hearing a couple of weeks ago about the Affordable Care Act. But I want to bring Patrick in real quick. Patrick, as a friend, what were you, and before we came on, you talked about having other family members and friends that have had cancer. Tell us a bit from your standpoint, your thoughts.
In 1993, Atiba was a dear friend of mine when I was in grad school. She was an undergrad. She was diagnosed with it, and probably by the time she was 24, 25, she was gone. And I've been very aware of, supporting women, supporting even men in some instances, but primarily my female friends over the years. I've learned one thing about it is that the support that they need is sometimes just a phone call to see how they're doing beyond just not chatting. I've lost a couple of friends, dear friends, last 7 years, where a dear friend lost, she left her 2 boys because of her husband at the time recommended her go get checked. She didn't think it was acceptable to her, and the county totally took her out. Childhood friends just across the board. But the one thing I will tell you throughout this entire process is that for me and Dr. Beth, I admire her bravery, how she never shied away from going in, exploring, and even going toe to toe with her doctor.
Pat, can you move up to your mic and talk a little bit?
So what I was saying was that, I've lost a lot of friends over the years to it, unfortunately. But the one thing I keep with me is their spirit, as well as the strength that they show throughout the entire process. And, you would never think that you would become versed in understanding mastectomies, radiation, the side effects of it, and exactly what the recovery and renewal process is. But I'm proud to say is that every friend that has gone through this, I've checked on them. I've checked on them and not the cancer. I think I've been a person who has just been very, respectful of their wishes and how tired they are, and things like that. But also caring also is a part of the renewal of a person's spirit who's going through this. So if you know anybody going through it, don't shy away from them. Engage them. Be supportive. Call them with a corny joke. Dr. Best would tell you, I think I probably sent her like 900 memes over that time.
Right there.
To let her know I was thinking about her daughter. We talked about a lot of things when it comes to how you feel about it, how sometimes as a friend who is supporting a friend through this, that you carry their power, their purpose, so when they can't be there, you can demonstrate a form. And I think one of the greatest exercises for me was one day we were talking, me and Dr. Best were talking, and we started talking about her daughter, who's the everything to her. And she said, I got to beat this because I got to see this child graduate from dental school. This child is a sophomore in college right now. So she set a goal, and we've been working towards that goal ever since. And so just to see her renewal and seeing her, even in some instances, I don't want to drive to the hospital for my next round of radiation. I'm going to take the bus.
Okay.
Or a way to get there to get back, because I want to make sure I'm present for all of these transactions, and just be help your friends be accountable in a way that you really don't know, that they really just need to hear from you, and not I can't say it enough. Help the cancer. So,
Dr. Shishtari, I want to. I know you were more recently diagnosed, and I want to cue Betty or Earl to show the video from your last chemo treatment, and then would like to ask you some questions. We have.
Wait. Okay, we're recording. Go. Yeah, ring.
Let's say okay.
Is it awesome?
You're the best. Thank you.
Wait.
I saw your emotion right there, Christiana. I know that was when you went through your last. Was it 6 treatments?
I did 4, and that was just 2 weeks ago. So the experience is a little raw still. But yeah, this is actually the first time I'm really speaking about my journey in a public sense. So if I get a little emotional, it's probably why. So seeing that video just relived the excitement of going through chemo.
And I think that your story, we've been friends for a number of years. Your story for me, one, you were, I've been following you because you're about to get married. You've been working on the front line in a hospital during the midst of this pandemic, and then you and your husband get married, and then you were diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, it's been quite a 2020 year. Started off great. We had a great New Year in January and February, and then I'm an internal medicine resident, and I'm at a big hospital right out by O'Hare. So I live in Chicago, and I was in the ICU admitting the first COVID patients to our hospital. So, at the beginning, we didn't have enough PPE. We didn't know what this virus was. We didn't know how much about transmission. So, needless to say, very stressful. It was really taxing in a lot of ways. And then my now husband, dating for 9 years, long distance 4 years, and then we decided to finally tie the knot during the year of a pandemic. So we then had to cancel our June wedding. And we canceled everything. I mean, we wanted to celebrate, but every celebration was canceled. And we thought that was actually the right thing to do. It wasn't a hard decision to make. It was just more of an emotional thing we had to get over. And then we decided to legally still get married on the same day in June. And I was very lucky. Tiva and I've had this discussion before about access. And we actually got married more for other purposes. I wanted to get better health insurance. He has a better health insurance than I do. He's at the University of Chicago as a resident. Also, he's a surgery resident. And we just compared our plans. It's a better thing. We were thinking about family at the time. And so I got married for those purposes. We already own a home. Nothing really changed. And 4 weeks into it. So I am 38 years old. So there's, differences too between treatment and prognosis when you're, still have your period essentially called premenopausal, and then when you stop having it, it's postmenopausal. So 4 weeks into marriage, I was in bed stretching like this. My husband was already sleeping, and I felt like a pulling in my breast, and I instinctively just went like this. And I'm very fortunate, I think, that we're both physicians, and we kind of have already a sense of what abnormal feels like. And I felt something abnormal. Honestly, I wouldn't even have really looked into it, except my husband actually urged me a little bit more, I think, based on his experience. And, one thing after another, I would at a mammogram and a biopsy all on the same day, and everyone was telling me it doesn't look good. And then that was a Thursday, and on Monday, I got the phone call that it showed it was cancer. And we thought it was the more aggressive type because of my age. And 2 days later, we found out it's not. At least it's the hormonal one, which is the better outcome for me given my age. And, there's a whole other aspect of this that that is a little bit different in the journey is, we've never had, we don't have our own biological children. And with my age, and chemotherapy can destroy the ovaries. So there's an oncopreservation that you can do that, at least in Illinois, it's covered by health insurance and then the plan. So I'm super lucky. I had the right health insurance. I was super lucky to have found it. They think it's stage 2 because of my age and just how large it is. Chemotherapy was still recommended. I actually have my lumpectomy. So I'm going to have part of it out, and I'm going to test my lymph nodes for spread. I actually have it in a few days on Monday. So I would be 3 weeks out of chemo. I like to show people that I have had chemo. This is my, I have a comb over. So I hide it well. I was blessed with Mediterranean and Middle Eastern genes. So I have a lot of hair, so I lucked out. I usually have really great eyebrows too, but and everyone says don't complain because you still have hair. It shows longer, so I did cut it shorter, which I like actually. So yeah, and that's kind of my story. And in this, I've sort of become very interested in seeing how COVID's impacting cancer prevention, access, there's a lot. I know I have a lot of blessings in my life and it's sort of been talked about. The support is a huge thing. I couldn't even imagine going through this without having had, health insurance, financial support, a lot of emotional. I was very fortunate. I have a husband who's very supportive in all this, especially given the fact we call it chemo-pause. I'm now in menopause because we have to shut down my ovaries, and that does a big number on a female body. And there's just a lot of psychological aspects of it that, that go beyond thinking that it's cancer. And this was, and one last thing, I forget, I don't know if it was Dr. Best or Pat, or maybe it was you, Atiba, at the beginning. I made it my mission to at least within my circle, to make cancer not sound like the bad C word. I say it over and over again. I'm like, no, I am, dealing with this like a chronic condition. It's one of the best cancers too, that as a woman, there's a lot of research. However, there is a lot of, racial and ethnic disparities, unfortunately, with outcomes and mortality. But, I'm trying to normalize the word too in my life. Yeah. Sorry.
I wanted to chime in because you said that you're yet to do a lumpectomy with lymph node removal. That was actually part of my second surgery. There's a lot of things that you need to prepare for. Like I'm right now going through physical therapy. I do it twice a week because the lymph nodes require, constant drainage. So I was dealing with, swelling in the arm, extreme pain, loss of range of motion in the left arm. So the key is to continue to use it. I think part of the reason why I suffered as much as I did is I started favoring it for fear of using it the way I should. And that has caused some of the lymphatic fluid to back up. So, I'm the massage therapist that I have now. This is only my second week seeing her, and she's absolutely great. But I will have to do the compression sleeve and the compression glove and can't wear anything on the left side. So even as a right-handed person, I'm trying to get used to having my watch on the right hand as opposed to on the left. But I agree. There's a lot that goes with it. It's something that you live with every day. But, friends like Patrick, who, in the midst of a pandemic, when I'm going into the hospitals, as everything was shutting down, and then being in isolation from the cancer, from the pandemic, it was a lot. And, honestly, his calls, albeit random as hell, kept me going because I needed, it's like I was sitting there on the edge or the brink of just a breakdown, and out of nowhere he would call. And I told him that on several occasions. You must have known that I needed this phone call right now.
Absolutely. It's so much harder now, especially this third surgery, not allowing any type of visitors. It's lonely. I keep telling everyone, actually, some people call me and say, what can I do? What can I do? I'm like, I'm bored. So I know everyone's shut down, but we're even more so because we're,
exactly.
I was like,
I just moved back to Florida a month ago on October the 2nd, and there's still a lot of people that don't know that I'm back because the first thing they're going to want to say is, oh my gosh, I have to see you. And I honestly am not up for seeing folks because of the fear of, what they may do in their social lives. And, I can't risk it. I barely let my daughter come over.
Absolutely.
Well, if you share this podcast, they're going to know you now. But thank you so much. Thank you so much to both of you all for sharing your stories. This I think is every woman's fear. Like it's okay, and now it's almost getting to the point where, for me and my friends, where it's like more women, not if, because it's so prevalent for women and men, and but I do feel better hearing the stories, hearing the experience, knowing what you're going to go through, knowing what the steps, and it really takes the fear away. And for the people who feel like, I don't want to get a mammogram because I'm afraid of what's going to happen. I'm afraid to check because I'm afraid of what's going to happen. You guys are really making it a lot more, practical. Like, okay, yeah, you know what? We need to deal with this. We need to get our mammograms.
And I, going back to, what was said earlier about, waiting until post-election, I actually like the idea of waiting until, post-October, because everyone focuses on it in October. And honestly, my first diagnosis was in June. The second diagnosis was in November. So, at the end of the day, every day is Breast Cancer Awareness Month as far as I'm concerned, because you should be doing the ongoing checks. I'm 53. First diagnosed at 51, but at the end of the day, it knows no age, it knows no race, it knows no gender. It hits everyone, and it can hit at any time. So, if you feel something, you have to be your own health advocate. Don't rely on the mammograms or the doctor or your annual physical. Do your self exams, and early detection is key. And it's usually my profile pic during the month of October is early detection saves lives, and it's true.
One thing I appreciate about both your stories is how freaking normal you both look right now. Seriously. And you're going through it right now. So to Nayada's point of like taking the veil off or reducing the mystery of breast cancer for the rest of us who may be a little apprehensive about doing this self-test or going to get our mammogram, especially like I think Atiba said in the beginning around the screening and testing during COVID, because a lot of us, and I got to admit this about myself with all of my exams, my eye exam, I'm supposed to go get the colonoscopy and things where you're not having a problem right now. It's like, well, it's during COVID. Do I want to go to the hospital to get any kind of test if I'm not really feeling a symptom or having a pain? Because do I want to expose myself to the potential of the virus or just the chaos of outside? But I'm looking at the two of you, and if I saw you in the mall, or if you just come on here and not open your mouths or tell me what you're going through, I would have thought we would just start by to talk about the election or maybe, whatever. We're going skiing next month. Nothing says that you all are in the midst of battling breast cancer. So that says a lot about not only how strong you women are, but also that tells me, and I hope all the other women and men looking, get off your ass, go, okay, this is Jay Smiles, go fill yourself up tonight. And in the morning when you're bathing, go ahead and, get intimate with yourself and go and get your check up and get your test, because these are two women. They look this healthy while they're having the treatments. So think about how healthy they probably looked before they even had some chemo and radiation running through their veins. So it can happen at any time, in any place, and anywhere. Another thing is kudos to you guys for moving so fast on, hey, this doesn't feel right. And you didn't just say, oh, I don't know, whatever. Let me keep moving, because you both have seemingly very full lives. You're talking about what you do just in your regular life, and that. So I'm encouraged and inspired and in awe and a little bit scared. I'm not gonna lie, just a little bit scared. But I'm more emboldened to say, well, like if they can do it, then I should do better. I should do better about checking my health. And thank you all for being so transparent and talking about the lymph nodes and what you're having to do throughout the testing to let us know, it's not cute, it's not fun, but this is what it takes to stay alive. And that's the goal, is to stay alive, to keep fighting. And then thank you, Patrick, for saying, in being a friend, this is the angle that you're taking, right? I've had some friends and family members who have had cancer, but mostly other forms. I've been close to people who've had breast cancer. My business manager is a breast cancer survivor, and I believe she's likely watching us right now. And I've had other people close to me with other forms of cancer, but she had breast cancer, and I believe she's probably like in year 3. So she's not to the year 5 part where you can say she's a survivor. And I can remember just the choices we had to make in changing our operations and what she could and could not do, and just saying because we want to focus on your health.
Right.
Because period, health comes first. If you're not healthy, kind of what else can you do for your loved ones? So just kudos to you both. Now, that's my comment. Now I have a question. All right. So what is something, okay, I'm a comedian, funny, right? Either that happens while you're doing the treatment or when you get home and you're like, this is crazy as hell. I can't believe, okay, that my urine is now pink, or that I raised my hand and all of a sudden, like, oh my God, a fart came out of my nose. That's a little gross. But anyway, you know what I mean? Is there something that's a little awkward or weird that kind of makes you laugh, right? Through it all? Or maybe your voice has changed and you used to be able to sing in baritone and now you're a soprano because of chemo.
Oh gosh, so many.
Go ahead, I'll let you start because that's a tough one.
There's nothing. Okay.
You have one? Because mine has to do with the fact that my hormones stopped very suddenly. So you just imagine. So I did IVF so that I can preserve some eggs because the chemo is going to destroy what I have left. So I was getting injected with hormones. So let's just say normal is like 200. I was like 1200.
Whoa.
So let me just tell you that I had a really fun night one night with that 1200 estrogen. Feeling great. And then a week later, I'm injected with another medication that completely shuts down my estrogen. So it was literally less than 20, which is menopause. So it's like, think of a sex drive coming at a screeching halt. And suddenly I just felt like a tree. I was like, how do I go from here to there? And I'm lucky to have a partner who finds humor in that right now.
Yeah. As a comedian, I could write a few jokes about that, I think.
I am happy to give you a lot of material. The body changes, and I know that some women have gone through it. I just went through what some women might go over a few years in 1 week, 2 weeks.
That is so true. That is so true. And I've been getting the injections because I'm on the hormone therapy since February. And, the beginning was a nightmare. You're up and down. It literally is a roller coaster in terms of, emotions and just feeling and everything. The benefit that I have is, as a single woman, I don't have a spouse that, I have to explain things to or try and keep them entertained and engaged. So it's a little bit easier for me as a single person, but I can definitely relate, instantly being forced into menopause. That's probably the hardest part of it.
There's actually there's a support service for that, at least at the institution getting my care. It's actually called Prism. It's about sex after cancer. So giving us, it's a thing. So, and there's so many reasons to, it's not just hormonal, your body change, you're stressed, you're sad, you're, for women, it's more of a mental thing to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I have so many embarrassing things. I can keep going, but I have to learn.
Atiba, make sure if it's okay,
definitely.
Smiles would like to be able to get that information offline.
Yeah.
But I also want to say, for me as the oldest son of a mom who I have the incredible love for, and to go through it with her because I was taking her to her chemo treatments. I think I took her to most of them. My youngest sister, I believe, took her to her last one. And my youngest sister was like phenomenal in terms of the care that she provided for my mom. And but the hard part for me was to pick my mom up and take her to right when she was starting to feel better. What for me, I defined it as I felt like I was picking her up for her to become sick again. To go through that process. And then also, Christiana, you and I have talked about what my mom referred to it as chemo brain, where like it was things that or words that she would be looking for, but she couldn't like get it. And I'll kind of bring this up because what I'm hoping that comes from this conversation is that, as you talked about this earlier, Christiana, is like, how do we normalize this conversation? I don't think any of us want to normalize cancer, but the fact of, just in terms of the things that people go through, the experiences they go through. This is the first time I've had a conversation with somebody talked about sex. But I think those things are real because I also think that, with what we're doing here with Chalkboard Conversations is that we want to talk about prostate cancer too, I think, all these things are really important for us to be talking about. I lost my uncle, my great uncle, my grandmother's brother. He had pancreatic cancer, and man, I saw that like take him like within 3 months. So I see Patrick is over there laughing.
No, we were saying prostate cancer. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. And I know it, for me, it's important. It's not an exam that I ever like taking. But I mean, cough or somebody has their fingers literally up your butt. But it's something you got to do, and I think that we have to be talking about this more so that we normalize the fact that in terms of how we prolong our lives, how we live healthy lives, or try to manage our lives, especially as we get older, is that we have to, as you all said before, take control of your health.
Yeah, absolutely. I realized humor really makes not just me to use a lot of humor. My husband's like that too. We deal with hard things with humor. And what I do with my friends too. So from the beginning, I said cancer, number one. I didn't try to go about call my disease, my illness, that thing. But with my friends, so I do two things. I like to use the hashtag symbol. And I always say, so when I even, texted Tiva today and I was like, I might have problems finding words. I was talking to my doctor this week, and I'm a doctor, and I couldn't remember rotator cuff. And I was like, this muscle, this thing, I don't know. And I was like, God, I think I know what dementia is going to feel like one day. And then I just say, I'm like, hashtag brain. And that's what I text my friends when I literally can't remember what day it is. I completely said I was going to do something. I'm lucky. I got to take time off work. I'm on FMLA again, like a lot of things, lucky. We have a system in place to at least have somewhat of a paycheck. I'm lucky to have a job right now. And I also, my other thing, I would joke around with my friends and I would say hashtag cancer card. So I would guilt my friends to do a virtual game night with me when I felt like crap and I needed them to, company, because my husband's still working a lot. So I'm alone. So I would just, then they would make fun of me too. And I was like, I realized by me bringing that humor into it early, it allowed my support system to feel comfortable with it too. Because people don't know how to act so often, especially
that actually was going to be one of my questions. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting a lot of feedback. But that was going to be one of my questions. So I have two friends who were just diagnosed in the past 2 months. As a friend, my immediate reaction is to just go into panic mode and cry, feel bad, but I don't want to do that. So how should we react as supporters?
So in terms of how you should feel, if those are the emotions that you feel, that's all well and good. Just do it on your own. You know, it's okay to be angry. Lord only knows the conversations I had with God and with myself and these four walls around me. But, you know, express what you feel, how you feel, you know, when you're alone. But when you're around the person that's recently diagnosed, feed off of their energy in terms of trying to figure out what they need the most. You know, I had friends that were, you know, they know me. Everyone knows me that, you know, I'm queen independence. I can do this on my own. Oh, I don't need this. I don't need that. After I had that double mastectomy and could not move both arms, wiping my ass was difficult. And I was like, yeah, okay, can't do any housework or anything. And some of my girlfriends just, you know, showed up. They cleaned the house for me. They did laundry. And they're like, we weren't taking no for an answer because we already know what you were going to say. So, you know, do things like bring a meal because they're probably not going to be able to cook. You know, they're not thinking about some of those things. Run some errands, go grocery shopping. If you're used to, you know, like game night or anything to kind of take their mind off of it, or just go for a drive because they might want to be alone. So, you know, I go back to just feed off of their energy and what they may want. Honestly, they're not ever going to tell you, I need you, but they really do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I want to read a couple comments. Ricky Pete says, thank you ladies for sharing, all the best. Makita said, Jay Smiles was a rock star for me during my treatment. And Derek Adams says, thank you ladies for sharing your stories with us. May God continue to surround you with loving support and encouragement. Praying for you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Earl, you've been mighty quiet back there. You were making some movements earlier and kind of sitting back. Nick,
No, I'm taking it in right now. I've gone through it with two really good friends of mine, and I understand. But on no level is there anything I'm going to offer going to be on the same level of relevance as what's being given right now. So no, stop me and listen. I'm listening.
Nick.
It's just been eye-opening, and I'm just so happy that you both are doing well. I know there's still, you know, some tough times ahead, but I'm just really happy that you're here and you're being very candid and sharing your story. And I'm just, you know, just basking in your strength right now. So I really don't have a lot to say because, you know, I'm very emotional, so I don't want to like tear up, but I just want to thank you for sharing your story.
Go ahead, Christiana.
Oh, I wanted to add to that what you can do for friends. I agree with everything. It's so on track. I was, so one of the hard parts is sort of seeing, you know, maybe there were some people that you thought would be in your life to support you and they kind of disappear. I actually had, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer 10 years ago. So I kind of already went through this with her. So I knew how to mobilize for myself quite quickly from that experience. There were some I didn't hear from. And you know what I would tell people is, you don't know what to say, don't worry about it. Even just shooting a text to say, hi, I love you, I can't imagine, you know, or whatever, and just say, thinking about you, love you, praying for you, whatever, you know, it is that you believe in. And then just say, you know, no need to respond. If it's okay, I'll check in on you again. And I think in this process, I've learned, like, don't put the onus on us. And I appreciate when people say, let me know what I can do. I will promise you, they will never let you know because there's a billion things going on in their head. And sometimes they don't know, you know, we don't know what we need. So I appreciated it when people just offered, showed up, or mailed me something. Because even if I didn't even need that, just the thought, you know, the flowers that's sitting in my kitchen for that week, I'm filled with love and support. And that's what we need to get through this, because this really, truly is our battle. But having that sort of, you know, that the troops behind you feeling, like, really gives you strength. And
you know,
speaking of myself, but I'm only feel this way because of the army that I have behind me.
You know, and it's so simple sometimes too. I remember when Dr. Best, when this first started, we showed up at her house, I think, with cleaning supplies. We had Lysol wipes. We had paper. And me and my wife were sitting in the car, and Danielle was like, "What is this?" I said, "Don't worry about it. She's gonna pop out front. She ain't been outside in a week." And we gave her, like, this was like the stuff when people were hoarding stuff.
Right.
that was like treasure.
Exactly.
Because we felt like we could stay safe, but she needed to get back and forth for chemo. And so we went out of our own heads of asking permission. And all we did was ask her to come outside, and we had something for her. But it's those simple, kind acts that you can do.
Absolutely. That's like love.
Like to echo your sentiment, the stuff that was most beneficial to me were the number of meals that were sent. I had some of the best chicken noodle soup. I still don't know where the hell it was ordered from, but it was so good. Came in a box, in a jar. I ate off of that for a couple of days. Super tasty. Came with a giant ladle. There were friends that would call and say, we're going to by with a meal. We're not going to stay. We don't want to bother you because we know you're resting. They would drop off dinner. But, when I started going through the radiation treatments and some friends found out that I was, having to take a couple of buses to get there or Uber, Lyft, they're like, absolutely not. And before I knew it, I had $1,500 in Uber credits to get to and from my daily doctor's appointments.
That's wow.
So, I can't thank them enough for, because that's not something that I would ever think of, and I was just trying to get there so that I wouldn't have to drive because I was so terribly fatigued. I mean, it took every ounce of everything in me just to keep my eyes open on the ride to and, coming back from the hospital after treatments every day.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to thank both of you for joining us this evening. This has been incredibly insightful. It's a conversation that we need to have. Well, we always tell our guests, and we mean this sincerely, that anytime that you'd like to come back, and hopefully if we ask you to come back, you'll accept our invitation, because, these are conversations that are not necessarily easy conversations. They're conversations that personally I wish that we could be having in person. We've got COVID. I feel very blessed in the work that I do because I get to work in this space as it relates to education and advocacy with elected officials. And so I'm kind of asking, my last question to both of you is if there was something that you could tell to President-elect Biden or to our elected officials as it relates to healthcare and breast cancer, what might that be?
I have one. I'm going to then put my plug in. I didn't want to get too nerdy with facts and things like that. If it was going to happen organically, I'd bring it up. But we can have a whole nother conversation about statistics and things like that. But the one thing I wanted to point out, at least, this is, I think, really important to show. We sort of already touched on it, how important it is to do prevention care. I sent you guys a graph. I don't know if you're able to pull it up, but I want to just highlight the effects. Yeah, that one right there. So it's a busy sort of graph, but that blue one, so this is the top 6 cancers, and that blue line all the way, you see the first sign on the left is breast cancer. It's the second most common cancer in women next to skin. So the blue is this period of time that was from January to February of this year of new cases of breast cancer diagnosis. And then as you follow it to the right, you can see how it's going down. Now, what could possibly cause cancer diagnosis to go down? Cancer to go down that far on its own is the pandemic. There are multiple reasons for it, but I just wanted to urge everybody to see, and this is, if you go across, there's multiple other cancers. It's impacting all types of preventative care. Breast, you need mammograms, colorectal, rectal. You need to get basically the video. Nobody wants to do that. Lung, you can get scans of your lungs, so etc. So I would say urge the next administration. I think the current one, it's a lame duck. There's no sense. But I did actually find that there are some organizations already urging the administration to pay more attention, like trying to figure out a way to have access to mammograms and preventative services even when things are starting to lock down again. It's important. We're going to have issues with this and all these other things that are going to happen because of COVID and shutdowns. But one thing there's research already showing that there's going to be tens of thousands of extra deaths just from this delay of getting preventative services. So that doesn't even account for already what's happening. And then think about there's already disparities in racial, ethnic groups. And so imagine that they already have challenges to access. And so this is an even further challenge. So I think we're going to see a lot of terrible repercussions from this. And so I highly urge everybody. And the last thing I'm going to say is, as someone who's literally going into the hospitals right now multiple times a week for 3 months now, I feel very safe. I honestly feel safer in the hospitals than I do walking around in the community. Every single mask, everything's clean. I think at least in the hospitals, and I think data is showing that the spread is happening more so in the home, gatherings of people, family members. It's not, there's a study, Mayo Clinic right now is saying they're understaffed by 900 staff members have gotten COVID the last 2 weeks. And they were saying it's mostly from the community, actually. It's not from patient interaction. So it's safe. I feel very safe. Don't be scared to go see your doctor. Okay, I'm done. Thank you for giving me that time.
I think that the biggest issue that the Biden administration needs to address is the access and the approval of things that the insurance companies don't deem as necessary. For example, I have a long history of colorectal cancer on both sides, both maternal and paternal. And one of the things that they wanted to do with me specifically was genetic testing. And at the time, my insurance company from the first diagnosis would only approve certain markers. So it's like 3 markers, but there's over 30-some, 40-some markers out there that they could have tested for. And so, we don't know whether or not there's a genetic issue, which after a double mastectomy, who would think that I would get breast cancer again? And so I think the biggest thing for this administration is to allow that full access. Stop allowing the insurance companies to put limits on the necessary testing to get to the root cause of, some of these diagnoses, because had they allowed the testing the first time, there's a possibility that we would have been able to catch it or do a totally different course of treatment to prevent me getting cancer again.
Wow. Well, thank you all very, very, very much. We're all sending you all big hugs of love. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. This has been incredibly insightful. And I think it takes a lot of courage to come forward and talk about these things. But I think if we want to normalize screenings and access to care, that we have to keep talking about it. The term that I use often with my clients is, I'm not going to miss my shot. That's a play off of Alexander Hamilton play. We have to be loud. I'm a 7th cousin of Frederick Douglass, and I often tell people I'm going to agitate, because that's how we make. I don't know why Patrick just made that face.
Well, we're trying to do the math on 7th. Like, yeah, we were like, the one. Like,
well, I mean, he
is there a removal somewhere in?
There's some removal, but anyway, that all said, thank you all again. I'm the only reason why I'm cutting this off, because this was a great conversation, is I'm trying to keep us to a time limit, because we often will go 2 hours on a show that is supposed to be 1 hour. So thank you all again, and we definitely would love to have you come back. And we wish you all the best.
More than happy to.
Yes.
Thank you
all.
for,
Thank you so
Keep
much.
kicking cancer's ass.
Yes.
yeah. I wish I
Yes.
got my,
And I'm going to send an email that connects you with all of the co-hosts. In particular, I know Jay Smiles is going to cut some jokes.
I won't say your names in my jokes, but I will love to tell the stories.
problem.
All right.
Thank you for giving a platform for this too.
Yeah.
Thank you for accepting it.
Thank you,
you.
Patrick.
We couldn't have done it without you.
This was a long time coming, but I definitely would be more than happy to come back. Because again, this has been a process for the last 2 years, and I don't know what next year is going to bring. And the course of treatment that I'm on now is kind of experimental in terms of where I was in 2018 and what I'm doing now, and do we need to pivot and do something else? So I'll keep you all posted. Thank you for your prayers.
Thank
That'll
you.
be a great conversation.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
All right.
Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Wow. I don't even know how we go into for the culture
That was
and thanks management, move Biden in, or our entertainment segment of Sip with a Brew, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna try and do it. That was a great conversation, and Patrick, thank you so much for getting Dr. Best. And this is just a serious issue. It's one I know that I'm working on with a client. We just actually taped a video panel discussion for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators Conference, sponsored by Amgen, that's going to broadcast during their virtual conference in a couple of weeks. And it's about the topic is actually COVID-19 interrupting cancer screenings, and then why policy matters. So this is definitely something that needs to be on the forefront of all of our minds. And so make sure that you're getting your screenings. Make sure your parents, your family members, just because there's COVID doesn't mean that cancer is still not going to impact you or your families.